All right. Hello, everybody. I'm Alexei Kraborov, the organizer of SF Spark. And actually, this time, it's a part of the Cognitive Frameworks Festival, which is a city-wide series of meetups. We start on Mondays, Tuesday today, and we have it all around the city. It's Scarlet, Spark is data pipelines for machine learning and AI. And here we're at Chartboost with Deepak Thakral, who is VP of Product Engineering here. And Chartboost is doing very interesting stuff. Deepak, tell us about what Chartboost does.
Sure. So Chartboost is the world's largest monetization platform for gaming audiences. We have our SDK, which is basically a piece of code for mobile game developers in over 300,000 apps. So 90% of the top iOS and Android developers use our SDK solution for monetization, which basically means that they utilize us to show ads, mostly video ads, playable ads, interstitial ads, and they make money through that, right? And so we have all these 90% of the top grossing iOS and Android apps on one side. We also have some of the largest gaming studios like EA, Zynga, Big Fish Casino, King, running ads to drive user acquisition and to drive app installs. So we see somewhere between 700 million to a billion unique devices each month. So these are basically like the monthly active users we see on our network, which gives us unprecedented scale. And since it's a performance-driven ad network, we really, I always say that, while it looks to people we are an ad network, but really behind the scenes we are a big data shop because we harvest all the data that we see in terms of billions of events like impressions and clicks and installs and post-install data to utilize that, and we utilize technologies like Scala for our ad serving, and we utilize Spark for our compute cluster, the cluster computing to really understand and design the right models to make predictions about which is the right ad to show to the right person at the right time.
A billion devices is certainly some big data, right? So this is really cool. I knew Chartboost for a long time. Chartboost is a player in the community. We've been at all the Chartboost offices around the city. So it's really good to be back, right? And see you guys adopting Spark, because I think that just happened right during this period of time. But kind of before we kind of dig a bit into that, so EdTech, I think we talked about this, is kind of an elephant in the room because it still seems to be the main earner on the internet, right? And some people say Google is just an EdTech company, right? And so essentially it generates the most income, but it's not as much talked about as AI and other things. So why do you think is that? Is it because VC investment leveled, or the technology is mostly known, or the rate of innovation slowed down, or what?
Sure. I think what we've seen is there was a time period where there was an explosion of investments in ad technology because it was new and emerging. I think where ad tech is now is in a period of maturity from an industry perspective, but I, in fact, see a lot more innovation happening today than it was happening before. It's just that people have gotten used to it, and there are newer trends like AR and VR, and there's always the buzzwords. Right. But if you think about where the real money is being made, the global estimates are that the ad tech industry is basically about $140 billion in 2017. That's a lot of money. Yeah. And even if Google and Facebook dominate mobile advertising, there is still a lot of money for a number of players to make. And you look at Chartboost, for example, we are a niche player in the mobile gaming industry, but because of the depth of the data that we get and the kind of unique personas we have about the gaming user, we do really well for ourselves. And so I think AdTech is a great place which actually shows the application of AI and machine learning, big data at scale to make very precise recommendations, and they're very data-driven as to which ad to show to the right person.
Right. No, this is interesting, right? And I think there was this mobile revolution, right? You guys kind of started riding out the mobile. Can you tell me, I don't see mobile mentioned anymore. Is it because everything is mobile, just the assumption now that everything is mobile, right? Are we at the point where basically we can assume mobile first?
I think for us at least, that is the DNA of the company. It was born in a mobile in-app advertising world. So to us, we don't think too much about it. It's the language through which we speak. Right. But a lot of times when we do interact with people who are mostly still on desktop and mobile web, even though it's all advertising, but Mobile in-app advertising is a lot more about performance because the advertisers only pay us when an install happens. So there's a huge incentive for us. We don't get paid on impressions or clicks. We get paid when somebody installs the app and opens it up.
Okay.
And in fact, increasingly, advertisers actually will care about what is the quality of the user, right? Is it a paying user? Is it a returning user?
Yes.
So to us, mobile is like, that's granted. Like that's the ecosystem we operate in. But there's just so much nuance and depth that we are always like innovating and figuring out better ways to optimize it.
Right. So I at some point I kind of looked at some of the App Store dynamics, and actually I've been kind of contacted by people who run App Store optimization. I was really amazed, right? Like there are companies whose only job is to look at the state of the App Store, right, and kind of report on this data. And I think that like the top earners make so much money that if they somehow manage to kind of get a cut of that like it's tremendous, right?
Yes.
So they kind of following this. Like, what's most interesting there? Like, are you guys following this? Where are this app ecosystem going?
Sure. So the app ecosystem globally is about $40 billion. So that's a huge amount of money, and it's been growing at a rapid pace. What we see now is again like more maturity in the market because there was an explosion as the App Store evolved. In 2011, a lot of people started to play mobile games, and so there was like a rocket stage kind of a growth. But now the market is more maturing. The number of gaming users is reaching a steady state. The number of gaming sessions are reaching a steady state. But the time spent playing games is still enormous. So if you look around you, when you're on the BART ride home or you're on your commute home, you look around, you'll still see a lot of people playing games.
That's true.
And that's what we are really counting on. So just to give you some statistics, there are in the United States about 192 million gamers.
Wow.
So you think about the population of the United States, about 300 million people, 2 out of 3 people are playing games.
That's crazy.
Right?
Yeah.
And out of that, Alexei, a third of them are what we call as heavy users. These people will play basically somewhere between 5 to 6 hours a week, right? So somewhere around 20, 25 hours a month, they're on their games and they're very immersed in their games. So we are able to build very rich personas and graphs of their gaming behavior, what kind of people like casinos. And if they like casinos, do they also happen to like trivia apps?
Right.
And so then we'll kind of utilize that affinity to show apps and recommendations of what we think they'll have a high propensity to click upon.
Interesting.
So, and then even from a gaming perspective, like the people who are making these games, some of these games like casino games, they make $2 to $3 million a day from these games. So think about it, in a month, in a year, these are billion-dollar franchisees and companies that are like Machine Zone. That's a great example. Like they have 3 or 4 big titles, but they'll easily make millions of dollars each day. Just from the in-app purchases that drive so much virtual currency in the business. It's a huge economy by itself.
Right. It's amazing. Like it's a virtual economy, right? And so now I kind of get an even better idea where all this big data comes from, right? So and also because you guys have these long session times, and it's as opposed to kind of web ads, right? So you have better. I mean, sounds like it's suitable for machine learning, even better, right? Because you can look at temporal patterns, right? Like you can look at all kinds of correlations.
Yep, that's exactly right.
So now I can see kind of better, right? So clearly it's use of Spark, I mean, I knew you guys as a Scala company. Can you tell me how Spark happened, how Scala happened, why you guys found this as a good match to process this kind of data?
Sure. We've always prided on ourselves on investing in open source cutting edge technologies. And so for us, our engineering team is very acutely in tune with what's going on in the environment, in the ecosystem. Where do we have to make the right investments? Spark ML makes a good fit given our investments in machine learning and AI and the models that we have to build, and given the kind of computing that we have to do and the kind of clusters we need, the kind of big data scale that we have, it just made a lot of sense for us to invest more in Spark. So Vivek can probably tell you a lot more about when he comes in as to what are some of the specific use cases of how we are using Spark. And on the Scala side, we kind of moved from having a much more simpler code base with PHP to moving to Scala, given the functional programming and some of the aspects of it lend very well to what we are doing with our ad selling.
It's interesting. I noticed multiple gaming companies did this transition. Like they started with PHP. I think Quixey had a bunch of PHP and Kaboom. Like I noticed, like a bunch of gaming companies had PHP and then they moved to something else, right?
Sure.
So and actually several picked Scala. So it seems like is it because of JVM? Is it because of more kind of industrial, long-running servers? Like what are some of the advantages for you guys?
Probably a better question for Vivek to answer, but I know that we did look at various technology and which coding languages to utilize, and we just felt like Scala was a better fit for where we are. But some of these decisions predate me, so he's probably the better person to answer that question. All right.
Yeah, and definitely, we have Vivek's talk following.
Yeah.
And so maybe you tell me a little bit about what attracted you to the tech industry. What's really exciting about it for you?
Sure. So for me, I'm an advertising guy. I've been building ad platforms and advertising products for the last 10 years plus. Mm-hmm. So I've kind of evolved from like having a lot of solutions which catered mostly to desktop because that's where the primary traffic was. Yep. And then my career trajectory is kind of in a way followed where the eyeballs have gone. We've gone from like mobile, from basically desktop to mobile and to mobile web and then to mobile in-app. Clearly the opportunities that have emerged has been around mobile in-app monetization. Mm-hmm. People spend 60-70% of their time of their time on mobile within apps. So how do we like more capitalize those interactions between users and their apps?
Right.
And so it was kind of a natural fit for me to kind of evolve and go and work for companies where it's all about advertising, but it's also about apps. And then, of course, gaming is fun. I play games. We all play games. So it kind of made sense to kind of figure out how do we do better at gaming monetization.
All right. So as kind of someone who follows tech, can you tell us what's going to be next? Where is it going? What's after apps? Is it just going to evolve inside apps? Is it going to be in AI? Or we have AI, ads in VR? Like, do you have any feeling where it's going?
No, I think there's some very interesting trends that tell us as to what's going to emerge. I definitely see AR and especially more than VR, AR lends itself very well to the gaming experience. We saw that with Pokemon Go. Right. But I also see more immersive experiences will come in both virtual reality and augmented that'll allow users to really experience the game. Mm-hmm. Right? And to become part of the game. They can choose to be a persona in the game. They can say, I want to be this character or that character, and then how the game experience develops. And as that happens, I'm sure companies in the advertising world will figure out how to make ads more enticing, but more a part of the ecosystem than just being a static kind of display. Like even video, if you think of it, it's great to have mobile video within these games, but they're more like a passive form medium. So with playable ads, we made it a lot more interactive. I think with VR and AR, it'll get even more interactive, where even the ad kind of fits in and blends in very well. Right? So it kind of becomes native to the scheme. Interesting. So I definitely see those kind of trends. I think what Google's trying to do with instant apps and Apple with app thinning. So I think it'll get to a stage where the distance between an app versus mobile web will start to just converge, and people will want to play games and they'll just play instant games. We see that happening with Facebook. So I feel there's some of the friction that's involved in looking at an app, downloading it, then opening it will start to kind of go away as HTML5 gets better. Right. But there are some functions which are very native to an app. So I suspect there'll be some really heavy, apps which have very clear use cases that'll continue to stay. But a lot of the casual games stuff will probably move towards more like a blended environment.
Interesting. So it's in a way it will come full circle to the web where it's stateless and you just start where it was, right?
Exactly.
Which is interesting, but you have all this richness, right?
From I think the good part is this flexibility because we've kind of gone the full circle. App developers can make better choices about what is the right gaming experience and what's the right delivery mechanism, whether it happens to be mobile web or app. Let the user kind of decide what that is.
All right, so this is a really good overview, and maybe we can wrap up with, we're here with the meetup. You guys are really good friends of the meetup, you know the community. What makes it interesting for you to host meetups? What do you expect from the community, and how the community kind of can help you guys?
Sure. So, we're big fans because we believe in the community, we believe in ad tech, we believe that we all benefit when we share the knowledge and the wealth and the depth that we have. It's also a great opportunity to get our name out there. And if there are people who are looking for a career in big data or in ad tech, then we're always looking at hiring people. We have lots of opportunities in data science, in ad serving, in our front-end team. So if folks are interested, always feel free to reach out to us. But that's the whole spirit.
Sounds great. And I can just say that the location is awesome. The team is great. So thank you very much for having us. Looking forward to the talk.
Great. Thank you, Alexei.
This is Deepak. Thanks. All right, man.
Good.
This is awesome.